I was actually just looking for something different. Instead of another palace or castle, I wanted to see what a medieval merchant's home in Florence looked like. But the more I researched, the stranger the story became. I discovered an antique dealer, a mysterious auction in New York, and somehow this house was at the center of both. So I came to Palazzo Davanzati to find out why. The moment I stepped into Palazzo Davanzati, something immediately felt different. It isn't a palace, but it doesn't feel like an ordinary house either. The building just kept growing upward, floor after floor. Each level follows almost the same layout. Yet now and then, you turn the corner and find a tiny hidden room tucked away. The windows are smaller than expected, the stone walls are incredibly thick. Most of the natural light actually came from the central courtyard. In a strange way, it almost reminds me of a modern apartment building, except one family owns the entire thing. Honestly, if Florence ever had a zombie apocalypse, it would probably be one of my top survival choices. But 100 years ago, people clearly were not interested in its defensive qualities. If I didn't know the history, I would never connect this place with one of the most successful auctions of its time. And yet, collectors from around the world were fascinated by this very house. Clearly, I was missing something. At that point, another question came to my mind. Florence is full of old houses, so why this one? As I kept walking, I started noticing something else. What stayed with me wasn't any particular pieces of furniture or any single room. It was the space itself, the painted walls, the carved wooden ceilings, the courtyard, the wooden doors. Individually, none of these things seems especially extraordinary. But somehow, the longer I stayed, the less I feel like I was looking at furniture or even rooms. Without realizing it, everything slowly came together into a complete world. But that world couldn't simply travel to New York by itself. More than a century ago, someone stood in this very house, and whatever he saw, it clearly wasn't the same thing I was seeing. A few years later, he brought his version of this world to New York. In the early 20th century, an antique dealer named Elia Volpi bought this house. But the plateau he bought looks nothing like the one we see today. It had been altered, divided into apartments, and had fallen into decline. Over the next few years, Volpi completely reimagined the space. He wasn't simply restoring an old building. He was carefully selecting, arranging, and combining everything inside it. Not to recreate one exact moment in history, but to answer a different question. If someone were walking into medieval Florence for the very first time, what would he want them to see? For long, more and more people began visiting the house. Collectors and wealthy Americans from across the Atlantic. Exactly what they saw when they walked through these rooms, we will probably never know. But one thing is clear, some of them left wanting to stay just a little longer. If you have made this far and haven't subscribed yet, now is a good time. It will help me keep sharing these hidden corners of the world. In 1916, Volpi shipped a huge part of his collection to New York for auction. When I started reading the original auction catalog, I suddenly realized something. It wasn't organized like a typical antique sale. It wasn't just furniture or painting or sculpture. It presented an entire interior. From furniture, tapestries, chased, ceramic, sculptures, every kind of decoration imaginable. It almost seems to tell buyers, if you like this world, you can take part of it home. That suddenly explained why the auction had worked. Maybe people were not buying individual antiques at all. Maybe they wanted an entire medieval room. The auction was an enormous success. At that point, I thought I had finally understood Volpi's business. If that were true, the story should end here, except it didn't. If those antiques had been the real product, the first auction should have been the end of the story. Instead, Volpi returned to Palazzo Davanzati. He rearranged everything, refurnished the rooms, and built another version of medieval Florence. Then he held another auction. That was the moment everything finally clicked. What Volpi was really selling. It was never the objects themselves. It was the world they created. The objects could always be replaced. As long as that world could be recreated, it could be sold again and again. Maybe that was Volpi's real genius. He didn't just discover valuable antiques. He discovered what people really wanted to collect. A version of medieval Florence. Today, Palazzo Davanzati is just one of many historic buildings in Florence. In fact, most visitors probably walk right past it. Even the museum itself barely mentions Volpi's story. But without him, the palazzo we see today might have looked very different. More than a century ago, Volpi did more than restore an old house. He imagined an entire world and invited others to step inside it. Eventually, that world was taken apart only to be reassembled inside homes around the world. And this house itself, through countless restorations and reinterpretations, has become a different Florence for every generation. Today, through my camera, you are stepping into one more version. And perhaps every generation creates its own Florence.